Hey everyone, hope you're ready to kick this thing off with a great week. In order for us to understand how to improve, in order for us to have any kind of improvement at all, we have to be able to track. And so sometimes it's confusing on how you track it and sort of what to track and how to track it and what it means and how to improve on it. And really, when we look at how someone makes a decision in business, when we're trying to influence behavior, when we're trying to sell something, we have to understand that they go through a process of sort of this 5 steps of decision making. And we have to look at each one of those 5 steps as a sale in itself. And as we get those agreements, as we get those steps closed along the way, they ultimately lead to our big sale, which we're commissioned on. Now, when we look at this whole process, these 5 steps, if we understand that if we make small improvements in each of those steps, because of the way that they work and the way they build on each other, right? Compounding, as we know, what happens is the end result is exponentially bigger. And so I know that if we take a 10% improvement in these 5 areas, it usually increases the bottom by 63%. So you already get a little extra bump. But the really powerful part comes in when we add those 5 and we compound a 15% improvement in each of them, because that's over 100% increase. So when we talk about doubling sales, what we're really talking about is focusing in on each of these 5 steps and getting 15% better at each of them. And because we're compounding in that the 15% of the last part is compounding on bigger numbers from before, what ends up happening is we end up having an exponentially larger increase, a double increase, if you will. And so I've attached I've attached a spreadsheet on the website for you. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to walk you through what the 5 components are. And then what I want you to do is I want you to start keeping track of your numbers every day, and then at the end of the day you can enter them into the spreadsheet, because as we move forward, this is the specific information that I need in order to really dial you in to get that doubling of your income or doubling of your sales. So we've laid foundational pieces up until now, and we've gotten better at little bit things, but we really didn't know what it meant in the big picture. Now we're starting to build that big picture around it, right? We're almost 26 weeks into this. This is the 21st week, so we're creeping up on a half a year. We have to understand that it's these incremental small improvements that make the difference. There's no magic pill, there's no magic wand, there's no magic word track. This is about making small increases in many, many, many areas that accumulate, compound on each other, and give you the results that you're looking for. So when we talked early on about doubling sales, and when we talked early on about how to really impact what you produce, this is the point right now where we really get granular with it. This is the point where when people learn this principle, it changes lives. This is the point right now when people learn the things they learned up till this point and they understand their numbers. This is where the big increases happen for you. So this should be a pretty exciting time. But you have to understand that you have to be very, very knowledgeable about your numbers, very knowledgeable about your percentages, very knowledgeable about your ratios as they relate to each other. And so if you want to take some notes while you're watching this, it'll help reinforce. If not, you can download that spreadsheet that's attached in your website, and then you can start going through this. So the first thing we need to keep track of is the number of contacts that we make on a daily and weekly basis. Depending on how you have your week set up, you may not make any contacts on Monday, but you may make 20 on Tuesday. So I don't really care. We're only putting them in there day by day just so we know what happened at the end of the week, because everything we look at is a week snapshot. But I need to know at the end of the week whether it was 20 a day for 7 days, or whether it was 140 in one day, or whether it was 150 or 60, however many it was. But I need to know how many contacts did you make last week. It's going to take us about 6 weeks of this data to really come up with an accurate number on what we need to do in order to close more, where we need to focus our time and attention. Okay, so the first component, the first agreement, so to speak, is contacts. Okay, so I've gone out and I've made 40 or 50 contacts, and a certain number of those people have agreed to meet with me, whether we're going to meet at my office, whether we're going to meet for coffee, whether they're going to meet with their home. And we'll talk about why I believe in meeting in people's homes at a different time, but I really believe you should be going to people's homes. Okay, so the second component is the appointment. They've agreed to meet with us, and now we set an appointment to meet them. We're going to meet Tuesday for coffee at Starbucks, or we're going to meet Wednesday afternoon at their home, or we're going to meet Monday afternoon at the office. Whatever that appointment is, once you set that solid appointment with a solid day and time, you count that as setting an appointment for that day on the spreadsheet. Now, if they say, call me Monday and we'll figure out where to meet, doesn't count as an appointment. If they say, yeah, I'll meet with you next week, I'm not sure what day, doesn't count as an appointment. An appointment is a specific day, specific time, and a specific place. So if any of those three aren't in there, it's not a real appointment, and you're just going to screw up your ratios. So for this, that's what we're counting as an appointment. Specific time, specific day, specific place. Those three things. Okay. The next component is your presentation, or the actual meeting, right? Where you're telling them about yourself. You're giving your value proposition so that they can make a decision whether to use you or not use you. Now, I will tell you, if you set 10 appointments for this week, not all 10 are going to show up. Maybe this week they will, next week they won't. Life happens. Sometimes people just aren't strong enough to tell you no, so they'll set an appointment and they don't show up, or they'll cancel. Sometimes the kids get sick, or they can't get out of work, or they have to work late, and other things come up. But we have these people who are always going to fall off. Some percentage of the people that set an appointment with you will not show up to the actual meeting. So we've got to know the difference, right? Because if 8 of my 10 people show up and only 4 of your 10 people show up, what it tells me is we're not setting strong appointments. We're not creating value. We're not giving them a reason to be excited to sit down with us. And so all of this is how we improve once we know your ratios, okay? The fourth component is how many of those people close a transaction. And that's going to be, right, it's a much smaller number than the number of people that you contacted. But we want to know that ratio. So how many transactions did you close this week? Okay. The next, and the final is, what was either, and you sort of have a choice on this one, what was the sale price, the loan amount, if you're an LO, or your commission. You know, if you're more comfortable tracking your commissions, it's fine, it doesn't matter. The ratios work out the same either way. We're just looking for a 15% improvement in all those, and we can study and examine whether it's a loan amount, whether it's a sale amount, or whether it's commission. We can really study how we got there and make a 15% improvement in that, and we'll talk about that later. But for right now, this is just about understanding the numbers that you need to know. As a professional, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, what information do I need to understand what activity level it takes to get to where I want to be? Because ultimately, as we gain this information, ultimately as we compile our ratios, I might find out that it takes me 122 contacts to close one transaction, or it might take me 73 contracts to close one transaction. The numbers aren't important, because going forward, all we're looking for is to improve on what we're already doing. We're just creating a baseline. And once we have that baseline, we'll figure out how to improve on that. Sometimes we can dramatically improve on it just by making some small changes in scripts, or making some small changes in our value proposition to have more people show up to appointments. So just understand that there's these ratios that we're always going to be looking at, and don't compare your ratios to somebody else's ratios. It doesn't matter, because your increase is going to come from your information, not theirs. So contacts, how many people it takes you how many people you talk to in a day. And a contact is somebody you talk to. So if you call up and you leave a voicemail, not a contact. If you call up and you say, "Hi, this is Matt from Matt Realty," and they say, "Hey, I'm not interested," and they hang up, that's contact. If they go through and they set an appointment, that's contact. So how many human beings did I physically talk to today, had a conversation with? And when I did that, how many of them set appointments? Okay, how many appointments did I actually present to? Did I present my information to? How many transactions did I close? And what was the commission, sale price, or loan amount? Whatever one of those you're most comfortable tracking. We're going to get about 6 weeks of this information together, and then individually we'll look at where you're strong and where you can make the biggest, fastest gains, and that's where we're going to focus our attention. So we spent the first 20 weeks building this foundation of information, building some best habits, getting ready mentally to be the best that we could be. Next, all we have to do is understand how many people do I need to contact. Because if it takes me 102 people for one transaction, I know that I have to contact 102 people this week. If it takes me 20, I know that I have to contact 20 this week. Or I contact 40 and be twice as good. But what this does is it gives you a very clear roadmap on what your activity level needs to be, because the numbers don't lie. If you go 6 or 8 weeks and we accumulate these numbers, the numbers are what they are. That means for 6 or 8 weeks, you have been contacting a certain number of people. A certain number of them have agreed to have an appointment with you. A certain number of them actually showed up, and then a certain number of them had a transaction. Okay, and so we study all of this in order to make small improvements in each, right? Because if my scripts are better, then I might not have to call as many people to get an appointment. And when I set the appointment, if I set an agenda and let them know that I'm there to do business, and it's a strong appointment where there's a day, a time, and a place, and they know why we're meeting, then more of those people will show up. And now I've got a qualified group of people who know why we're meeting, and we're just going to take them to the closing table. And then we're going to study how much commission or what the loan amount was or what the sale price was, and we're going to figure out a way to market ourselves or farm a different area so that we can raise that just a little bit, just by 15% or so. And if we do a good enough job on the other 4, maybe we don't even have to raise that number. Or maybe we raise it lower. But the whole key to this is understanding the numbers that it takes to get you to where you want to be. Because too many times what happens is we set a goal and we say, I'm going to sell 52 homes this year. Or I'm going to sell 50 homes this year. I'm going to close 100 loans this year. And we have no clue how many people we have to call to do that. Because if you really want to make this into a science, if you want to be able to increase your sales, if you want to be able to double your sales, you have to understand what activity level it takes to get there. And once you have the activity level, you have to be efficient in delivering your value proposition so people actually show up. And when they do, you're going to take a higher percentage of those people to the closing table. Take a higher percentage of those people to the closing table, you work a little different neighborhood, do a little bit different market, boom, all of a sudden you've doubled your sales. So these are your critical numbers and you have to know them every single week. So it takes just a second or two every single day to write down what your numbers were in 5 areas, right? If you just think of that, just 5 little numbers, and you'll know what they mean and you know what order they're in. So you can just write 20-0-0-0-0 or 22-1-0-0, and or just whatever those numbers are, you just write them down, and then at the end of the day or at the end of the week, when you're doing your review, just put them into the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet does all the math on the ratios for you and gives you all the information that you need. It's a great tool for you to understand how to grow your business. And you will be very pleased once you start using this and you start understanding what activity level it takes and where you need to improve in these 5 areas, how much simpler this job becomes. How much simpler it is to get where you want to go. This is a really, really cool tool. It's a really cool week to start something, and we have to have these numbers solid by October when we do our goals for 2020. So you guys have an amazing night. I wish you all the success in the world this week. I am always available to you if you want to call, email, or text. Please do so. If this is at all confusing for you, or if you screw up the spreadsheet or something because you put something in the wrong box and you mess it up, reach out to me. I'm passionate about this portion of the course. I'm passionate about helping you succeed. And it's really time we sort of take all the tools that we've used up till now and we get them working for us. So have a great day. Have a great week. And we'll see a lot of you this week in the live meetings. If not, we'll probably see you next week. Have a good one.